don't skip the prayers. Skip the prayers, you're taking a step backwards. And then you have a difficult time getting back to where you were before. Pray day in, day out, as prescribed, and you will slowly but surely notice a progress in your spirituality. You will notice that the beauty of the prayers increases with that performance in prayer. You will notice that if you compare your experience of prayer to the way it was 3 years ago, there is something greater about it now than it was then. Provided that you're also trying to live the life of a Muslim, sincerely trying to be humble and compassionate to others, to be truthful, to be fair to your neighbor, to be just, to be honest, etc., etc. But most of all, with all that, don't miss a prayer. Because you take a huge step backwards. And you got to start again. I'm not saying you go back to step one. Frankly, I don't know. But you do go back. And you got to bring yourself forward again. At least as I perceive it.
Jazakallah khair. There's one question that asked about which translation of the Qur'an do you think was more beneficial for non-Muslims?
Well, depends on the non-Muslim. The one that moved me the most, strangely enough, was one that, and I'm not recommending it, I'm just saying for me personally, was one that came with no commentary and was done by a non-Muslim. His name was Arthur Arbery, an English professor, but he wasn't a professor of English. He was an Englishman, a professor, scholar of Arabic, who worked I forget the university, Oxford, or I'm not quite sure, in England. And he did this translation, and that was the first one I stumbled on, his interpretation. And it moved me great. After that, I stumbled on, what's his name, Dawood? No, not Yusuf Ali. Marmaduke Pickthall. And I found his very enlightening. Also, I liked the fact that he didn't provide so much commentary. For somehow that was a distraction for me in the beginning. After that, I read Yusuf Ali's. I found it enjoyable. I found that I got things out of it I didn't get out of others. I didn't agree with him on all the points. He's exercising his opinion very frequently. But still, I found it valuable. But you have to realize that these are men, and they are providing their opinions on so many things. They don't pretend to be perfect. After that, I read Muhammad Asad. He had some interesting ideas in it. I found some of the things he said very enlightening. I took some, I discarded others. After that, I read Muhammad Ali's. It seemed that he was one of the earliest interpreters of the Qur'an into English. He did a fairly good job. I had a lot of respect for that interpretation. Let's see, who else did I read? I read, who? Yeah, Hamid Assad. I read, lots of people. I just read about everyone I could find. Recently, I've read the one that the Saudi Arabian Organization for the Propagation of Islam put out. I like that very much. That one, I think, is very nice. Almost any of those are suitable. Pardon? T.B. Irving. T.B. Irving did a very nice job. I like that. He did it for people who don't like Shakespearean English. For some reason, most Muslim interpreters inevitably use Shakespearean English. I don't know why. A lot of people have difficulty with it. I happen to like Shakespeare, so I enjoyed it. But T.B. Irving, a lot of people prefer his work. I would suggest that you use the interpretation of a sincere Muslim, because that sincerity will show forth. The intensity of his faith will also come out in his work, and that, I think, will be very inspiring and helpful as well. Any other questions?
Okay, Jazakallah khair. A large portion of these questions are about the atheist and what would you tell an atheist that would spark interest in Islam, or how would you discuss Islam with them or prove the existence of God to them?
I don't really try to prove the existence of God to an atheist. An atheist doesn't really come at you and says, prove God exists to me. Most people don't expect that much. Most atheists believed in God at one point in their life, and because of various rational or emotional things, rejected that belief at one stage. So they have the seed of belief in them at one stage in their life, but because of a bitter experience within the religion of their birth, they reject religion altogether. So usually I wouldn't suggest for you to come to an atheist and say, I'm going to prove the existence of God. If there were an empirical proof of God, a proof that we could use simply with the five senses, that would be convincing to everyone, no matter what, then everybody on earth would automatically believe. But there is no such simply and purely empirical proof. And I've studied them all. I've even studied the ones by Ibn Sina and others. And you'll have to make certain very strong assumptions for them to work, those arguments. And an atheist might not accept those assumptions. What I am saying is this, that with an atheist, you're taking the wrong approach if you say, I am going to prove to you that God exists. Because you get in a circle. Let him start. His starting position is this, that I have reasons why I do not believe in God. And then he'll start to explain them to you. I don't believe in God because I can't explain the suffering, and this is why we're here to suffer. I don't believe in God because if there's a God, can he make a rock that's too heavy for himself to lift? You know, let's say goofy things sometimes. If God is omnipotent, can he kill himself? You know, and things like that. You know, or I don't believe in God because he could have made us angels to start with, and he made us men, inferior. I don't believe in God because this world is imperfect. And a perfect God, if he creates an imperfect world, means he's somewhat imperfect. So he'll start giving you various arguments that he's invented over the years for why there is not a God. And then, if you study the Qur'an carefully, and study your faith carefully, I think you'll begin to point him in the right direction. I'm not saying you'll be able to answer all those questions for him, but you should think about what the Qur'an says about those issues. And say, oh, you know, the Qur'an says this. And the Qur'an does talk about that. I personally don't quite understand it, but I know that there are atheists who converted to Islam who found their answers in the Qur'an. I know this one in particular. This blonde guy, professor from the University of Kansas. He became a Muslim through the Qur'an. And he was an atheist. You know, and then let him go from there. You know, and he might say, what did he say? What did he do? Do you have a tape? Do you have a light? I wouldn't suggest that I'm the one to do the trick, but I'm just saying,